Hi there, Ron Shera here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? It's time to make the switch. Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Let me give you some advice from personal experience. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. From Maple Lake to Elbow Lake, Eagle Bend to Eden Prairie. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
Well, hey there, everybody. Bill Shirk, the man about the woods. Welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories, brought to you by our good friends at Star Bank. I've been sitting at home for, what's it been now, 4 months. I've had to pass on a couple of the most important fishing trips I take every year, and those are trips that are north of the border into Canada. Of course, the border remains closed. And for anyone who lives here in Minnesota, you understand that part of your fishing tradition each year is going north. And we're all missing out right now, not just folks on this side of the border, but also the folks up in Canada, too, right? There are literally hundreds of fish camps up there, and they're wondering when the heck the border might open up too. So I decided, maybe let's go to the source to try and at least discuss this. Maybe not get all the answers, but at least figure out the latest. My little gem north of the border is a place called Kabeelo Lodge, owned by the Lohn family. Harald and Ann Lohn and Eric and Allison Lohn. In fact, there are 3 generations of Lohns running around now with all the kids up there during the summers. But we go up a couple times a year, and you drive in on the gravel road, and they're always there to meet you and say hello. And they load our gear onto a couple of airplanes, and we fly out to one of their, dozen or so remote lakes. And funny, you always seem to catch fish. And Kabeelo has been part of our family tradition for 16 years now. And Harold is very tied into things north of the border. So I thought, Harold, you'd be a great guy to have along to talk today. How the heck are you?
Bill, I'm just fine. Thank you very much. And thanks for the invitation this morning.
Are you chomping at the bit to be north, or are you happy to be home here in Minnesota right now?
Quite honestly, I feel like I'm in suspended animation. I don't know whether to enjoy myself here or be on standby to go north. It's an indeterminate sentence, as it were.
And I think that's a good answer for you, honestly, because you and I have been friends for many years. As people who take these trips north know, yes, it's about the fishing. Yes, it's about airplanes, it's lakes and all that stuff. But honestly, it's about the people, right? It's about the friends you make. And the way I know you, your existence is in the bush. It's on the lakes. It's saying hello to people. And I'm guessing that the fact that you are sitting at home right now is tearing at you a little bit.
Bill, let me put it this way. I've been at Kabeelo Lodge. My wife and I bought it in 1982. So that's some 38 years. We've been in business for 48 years. But in those 38 years, I have always gone north. Invariably, I'm up there the first week of May, and I come back sometime in October. This year, of all years, I have been shut down. I mean, literally shut down. no going north, as it turns out. That's the most difficult time of my life, quite honestly, as long as I've been in business. Um, it
You always talk about being the first in, that you like to go alone.
Absolutely, it's a time to, truly appreciate what we've worked so hard to build up, to get it ready, so that we're happy with it, so that when you and your family and your buddies come up, I'm ready for you. I've got everything in line for you. I want to make sure there's no hiccups. I want to make sure nothing's missing. I want you to be there pumped up and ready to go. And I'm going to be there and looking forward to it and enjoy your arrival. Believe me.
And all the lodge owners are that way, right? We've always had just wonderful experiences wherever we are. And this year, there's no business. There's nobody. The lock is still on your front gate, right?
Absolutely. Just to let you know, just in the province of Ontario alone, there's some 1,500 small camps, big camps, lodges, you name it. With the exception of a few of them, which are now being traversed by Canadian citizens, they can go to the lodges, but nobody else can cross that border, which means all the Americans right now are considered to be foreign elements, as it were, and
Hmm.
you have to remain on this side.
Your
So,
business really is not made up of Canadian guests. It's folks coming from the United States.
uh, Bill, just to let you know, we're located in Northwest Ontario, and for people that are in the listening audience, if you went to International Falls, Minnesota, go straight north 250 miles, you run smack into Kabeelo Lodge. But that's Northwest Ontario, Canada. Virtually 99% of all the business up in that area, that part of the province, are U.S. citizens. Lots of folks from the Midwest, the Minnesota, Iowa, the Dakotas, the Wisconsin, Kansas, those kinds of things. So, yes, we rely on almost 100% U.S. visitors.
And I think that's part of the reason we're talking today, right? Is I know there's going to be another shirk trip to Kabeelo Lodge at some point. I'm patient enough that I can wait, although I don't like it. But there are a lot of people, and you see it on social media all over the place, who have no clue what's going on with the border. Their family vacation was shut down due to this COVID virus thing and the border being closed. And they say, well, when can we fix this? And nobody seems to know.
Bill, it's interesting. You got to remember that when it comes to a border, you're talking about at least two entities, in this case, the US and Canada. That border is a federal issue. So the Prime Minister of Canada needs to be involved in the decision, as well as the President of the United States has to be involved. Once the border issue is resolved, as it were, and until it's resolved, we won't be able to cross that. The second barrier that we're now trying to address is called the protocols. Once you get across that border, what next? Take your
Hmm.
temperature, uh, quarantine for 14 days. We don't know yet, Bill. I don't have a clue. Beyond July 21st, if that border is going to open and when. And if it does open on July 21st, what are the protocols once you cross that border? So your guess is as good as mine, and we're in a quandary, a lot of us.
And oddly enough, I was on the phone today with a buddy who does a lot of work for the Minnesota Wild. They're trying to get their NHL playoff season going again. They are trying to fly a bunch of players back from Canada, and it's a disaster right now. They were all supposed to arrive, and now they have to be diverted into Chicago because Chicago is one of, I don't know, 8 or 10 hubs where people can come in and get tested. It's confusing for everyone. But the reason I wanted to talk to you, you have been so connected to tourism between the two countries. You're on all these boards and part of all these groups, and you have the ear of so many folks. I mean, what are you hearing? Are people going to have a chance to go to Canada this summer, or are things just shot?
Well, let me just back up a little bit. First of all, keep in mind that this COVID-19 has created I'll call it a health crisis, whether it's actual physical, psychological, mental, emotional, whatnot. It has paralyzed both countries. The second component to that, Bill, is that the United States is an economically driven country. I mean, to put it bluntly, we're out to make a buck. And that's what kind of generates a lot of our activity. That's why I'm in business, to make a buck, to make a living. Once you slip across that border, the dynamics shift a little bit. The priority for a lot of Canada and the Canadians is the health and safety of their people. I mean, that's premier, and I admire that greatly. And it's not that we don't admire that greatly in the U.S., but there's a fine balance that we
Yes,
try to
there is.
strike here in the U.S. And Canada takes a little more conservative approach and says, let's make sure things are, health-wise correct and right, and then we'll make decisions. And that's where we're at right now, Bill.
So very conservative on that side.
Exactly. As a result of that, each time they give us let's call it a drop dead date, in this case now it's July 21st, that will be reassessed on or before that date to see if A, the border is going to be open. B, if it is, when? That's the next question. I don't have a clue. We have been going in 30-day blocks in terms of border considerations at this point. There is movement on the Canadian side, however, to begin to activate from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, so that now let's maybe accelerate the opening a little quicker. So there is some hope, particularly on the part of lodge owners, that we'll have some season. I can't tell you when. I just don't have a clue right now, Bill.
Wow. And you're the guy who should know. That's amazing to me. And obviously that creates frustration. Obviously it creates strain because of all these folks in the same position as you. You have a lot of resources up there. In your case, you fly airplanes. You have airplanes you have to pay for, among other things. So I can just only imagine the weight on the shoulders. And add to that the frustration of all your clients. I'm guessing your phone is ringing off the hook every day with people asking questions.
I don't think I've got as many telephone calls, emails, texts, voice messages, you name it. I'm surprised people haven't taken that out in the paper.
You didn't
What
know
we're
you had
trying,
so many friends.
we do, for 38 years, Bill, we've built up a pretty nice clientele base. And I consider these the finest people in the world, bar none. And they're all like family to us. We've always tried to treat them like that. So, of course, now, for example, if you had a trip in May, I had to call you back in March, maybe even February, and said, hey, you need to think about another date, Bill. Move to July.
Yeah.
May comes along. And I said, I got to call you again. I said, Bill, July's not going to work. Can you make it August or September? As you can see right now, we're at the end of June. I have called all of my guests in July, and I've talked to many of them in August and September, saying, be prepared. You have to make some alternate plans, maybe.
Well, I talked to your daughter-in-law a couple weeks back, and who is from Canada, and of course I was born there as well, live in Minnesota. Um, and she had an interesting point. She said, Trudeau is trying to protect the country, and she talked about the crossings over around Niagara and Buffalo, right? That there are so many people packed into that part of the world that Canada fears, a place like Toronto could become a New York City if the border opens. That's
Well,
valid. You have to think about that, I suppose.
not only it's valid, but you have to think about that's where the populous base is located in the province of Ontario. That's number one. Number two is that's where the votes are. Number three, that's where a lot of the money is. So when you get from Toronto, it's like going from New York City to Montgomery, Minnesota,
Mm.
which is where I'm located in the province of Ontario. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's 1,000 people in the nearest town. We're the classic definition of social distancing, if there ever was one. And the
And that's the
second
argument
point,
why people want to go see you.
of course. And so all of us in the province, in fact, the whole country, Canada, have been painted with the same brush by the government. They're saying what's good for Toronto is good for the people of Deer Falls or Dryden or Kenora or wherever else. It's truly amazing that there's not some kind of a regional approach to this opening, as it were. I can appreciate the difficulties, but Bill, I also, as a U.S. citizen, I walk around, I see people. We all understand the issues for the most part. Got masks on, social distance, wash your hands, stay to ourselves. So I think we can act accordingly if we cross the border. That's our argument. Um, Not a lot of sympathy yet, however.
Well, I noticed there's a video up online now. Um, Folks up in your neck of the woods, demonstration, do you call it, or just a social gathering to raise awareness? I'm guessing that group was made up of lodge owners, workers, restaurant employees, gas station attendants, and they all got together in Vermilion Bay with signs and said, "What about us?" And I was so disheartened watching that video because, again, I understand their plight. I'm sympathetic to it. I appreciate the service they provide every year. But I watched that video and it just felt like it was lost. Like nobody is listening. I didn't see a bunch of news outlets. I didn't see radio reporters. It just kind of happened and was there, and it just made me sad.
Um, I think those are accurate reflections and observations, Bill. Now, I personally wasn't there, but believe me, all of my colleagues were there.
Yeah,
The intent, of course, was to draw attention to that part of the province, Northwest Ontario. B, how about some recognition of the fact that we exist and we provide a lot of services? Tourism in Ontario alone is worth $35 billion a year.
billion.
Uh, in our little neck of the woods up there, and I consider, let's say that the last western part of Ontario, I'd say the eighth of it, we generate, between 12 and $15 billion worth of revenue. I call it new money. It's not recirculated, it's coming in from other parts of the world.
Sure.
Comes in, supports a lot of seasonal operations. I can't tell you how many people we employ, 15, 20,000 people. It's a lot of jobs, a lot of families, which becomes the bulk of their income for their entire year, is to work at these lodges. That's all by the board now. And yes, the other thing that was absent is high visibility. We didn't have politicians. They didn't show up. Naturally, the excuse was, of course, that there's over 10 people, so there's a chance for getting sick, so we can't expose ourselves to that. But nevertheless, um, it didn't get the play that it ought to get. If we did something like that here, I can tell you, would have had the whole Midwest United States involved.
Right.
There we had probably 7 different guys. That's it. Anyway.
It's an interesting dynamic. Obviously, I'm on the outside looking in. I know there are no answers, right? You're waiting on this July deadline. They may just bump you back another month. How are some of these camps going to survive this? Or are some going to simply go away?
Just to let you know that I'm on a conference call every Tuesday afternoon, every single Tuesday. We do a survey between Tuesdays. There's, again, like I said, there's approximately 1,500 lodges and camps in Ontario. Statistically, for those that replied to the survey, first of all, 100% are closed right now. Of those, some 60 to 65% will not be opening next year in 2021. Of those, approximately 50% are done. They're never going to open again. They can't. They're too small. They're not.
Why would they not open next year?
Think about this. You have a 5-month period, a window to make a living. Okay. If you can't generate any funds in that period of time, you got nothing to live on for the next whatever period of time until the next season opens. Mind you, now they've already lost 2020. Okay. They don't have no reserves in the bank. I won't go out on a limb and say that we're not getting support. There is targeted financial assistance available, albeit minimal, believe me. But they can't or don't qualify for this kind of financial support. So they look at each other and they said, you know what? Our dream is gone. Now, these are people that may have 6 or 8 cabins, little drive-up lodge.
Yep.
That just don't have it, Bill. They don't have the financial wherewithal in order to keep pulling this stuff off and pay the bills. They don't have it. So, and then there's also a block of people, let's call them the senior citizens, that have said, you know what, I've done it for 30 plus years. Maybe it's time to retire. And so they'll be stepping back as a result of this whole pandemic situation. So it's a mixed bag of people and their businesses, as it turns out.
Well, let's look at some of the good news. Every Christmas when the presents are under the tree, as a kid, I could not live within my skin waiting to get to those presents to open them, right? And we will be able to get back to Ontario at some point, and when it happens, what a gift it will be. It is going to be the present. I mean, I go north. Yes, I love to catch fish, but I love to sit out on the deck and hear absolutely nothing. I love the sound of a 2-stroke motor, a 6-horse 2-stroke motor at 8 a.m. on a glass calm lake. I like frying eggs in cast iron. We will have those experiences again, right? It's just a matter of having to wait for that. That's so tough, at least for me. And of course, I have 9 and 11-year-old sons who are barking up my tree every darn day because they want to get to Bear Paw Lake and catch one of Harold's monster pike. I'm guessing the lakes are going to be in as great a shape as they have been in the last 100 years. There's nobody around,
Bill,
and they don't get fish much, but
yeah, you epitomize exactly what we like to tell people if they come to our particular lodge. Yes, you're going to catch fish. Okay, catch big fish, small fish, lots of fish. You can catch what you want, but it's more than that. It's an adventure.
yeah,
It's that remoteness, that wilderness, that isolation. As my wife likes to say, one of the beauties of being up there is listening to loons holler. Their tremolos in the morning. They're happy to wake up. They're happy to get a meal. They welcome you into their, as it were, their pond. So that's just part of the beauty and the mystique of the wilderness up there. And we like to tell people it's that and much more because you're there with who you want to be and nobody else. You don't have to share it except with those that you've selected.
yeah.
And the anticipation, that's number one. The actual event is number two. And Bill, the memories you create will live forever.
You were almost 100% accurate in your story, except for the fact that when you listen to the loons, you can hear the loons on the next lake over to the west, and the loons on the lake to the north and the west and the south. It is so quiet there, you can literally hear them talking to their friends on other lakes. And I have never been anywhere on the planet where I've experienced that. The loudest sound up there is a plane periodically flying over. And that's part of the magic of it. And it's funny, we've been going long enough now that we see some of those planes and we say, hey, I think that's Mike. He must be flying, right? It's amazing. Time stops. You go back in time. So anyways, I'm missing it. It sounds like the next big jump here will be, again, July 21st, right?
That's correct. I would anticipate some leaked information prior to that, Bill. For those that occasionally go on the internet, look at the Globe and Mail, which is the major newspaper basically in Canada, you may see some early signs of border opening. Um, Take that with a grain of salt, but nevertheless, it'll give you a clue. That should happen, I'm guessing, sometime in the middle of July, not
And
before.
and they can also check out Kabeelo Lodge, your social media. You guys are periodically posting updates as
Yes,
well. And again, you're on these boards, you're in the know, so you most likely have as up to date info as anyone else around.
I think that's true, Bill. And we try to keep it up to date because, believe me, it's as critical for our guests as it is for us, as it turns out. I'd like to get out of this holding pattern that we tend to be in. I'd like to get my feet back on the ground, although Lord knows I like to be in airplanes too. But I like to land occasionally, as it turns out. This is the same with this business. Let's get the ball rolling.
Let's get the ball rolling. That will be our new chant for a while. Well, Harald Lohn of Kabeelo Lodge, thanks again so much. I know these are trying times, and I'm not going to give you any sort of advice and tell you to be patient because that's not going to help. So hang in there, I guess is what I'm saying. And there are a lot of anglers in this part of the world who are just chomping at the bit. And when the borders open, we will be back. We will be back. And we'll probably celebrate like we've never celebrated before. Although in
Bill,
Canada, no fireworks, no handguns. So,
yeah, Bill, as it turns out, you're going to be celebrating. I'm just going to have an extra hour or two to celebrate before you. But believe
yes.
me, we'll celebrate together for sure.
Well, hang in there. Check out Kabeelo Lodge's social media, Facebook page for updates on the border situation, the newspaper up there in the meantime, and we'll see you soon, Harold.
Bill, thanks a million. Hello to everybody out there in your listening land, and come to Canada and visit us at Kabeelo. Thanks.
When they come, give us one little piece of advice. When they come, what should they use to fish? Is there a proven color? And that might be a leading question because I've seen your tackle box.
Yeah. Look, the real world is every piece of equipment they sell out there, bait, I don't care what it is, has its day in the sun. There's no question about it. However, if you want to be consistently catching fish, there's nothing better than a lead-headed jig and a live minnow attached to it. That's consistency. I've seen it for 38 years. I'm going to see it for another 25.
So the last time you and I fished together, we're sitting in a 14-foot boat on, I believe it was Betty Lake.
Correct.
One of your favorites, which is also one of mine. Our biggest walleye from Kabeelo is out of that lake, caught and released. And you go into your tackle box. You've got one of these giant Plano type tackle boxes, and you start digging around, and I'm watching you going, well, I'll be darned. And you dig and you dig and you kind of mumble a little bit and you dig and you finally go, there it is. And you pull out an orange jig and you tie on a minnow, and of course you start catching fish right away. But I'm looking at your tackle box and it's full of nothing more than orange jigs. That's your color.
As it turns out, Bill, I have to be honest, we had an oversupply of them 2 years prior to that. And so I threw them in my tackle box. They were.
I will see you soon, and I will bring my orange jigs. Harald Lohn from Kabeelo Lodge. You're listening to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories, brought to you by our good friends at Star Bank. We will keep an eye on things going on the border, and hopefully we can get back into Ontario soon. Until next week, thanks for listening, and don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.